Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and share the crap out of this video. Caroline Leavitt ends up finding her family in hot water with ICE agents because, well, they ended up arresting one, and it's being spread all over the news, and everybody's asking her questions, but she doesn't want to say anything about it, and I think I kind of figured out why. Further, we have a registered sex offender who snuck into a school in Arizona. Actually, he didn't sneak in. He was let in through the front door, claimed to be a doctor, and sexually assaulted a 10-year-old child. And when I first heard this story, I automatically think that the victim of this might actually be a little girl. Turns out it was a little boy. And the problem is he was arrested for something like this just 2 weeks ago. And you won't believe what else he's involved in. Yeah, that's right. Illegal immigration, smuggling people across the borders, and all sorts of stuff. And they just let him run around on the street and eventually work his way into a school and assault a freaking 10-year-old child. So we've got that coming up for you. And the incident of the Seditious Six is actually getting a little bit more out of control when we look into it. Why? Because there's now billboards flying outside of Fort Bragg that are telling military members, basically they're directing military members to a website that gives them resources to disobey orders and all sorts of crap. Like, it's freaking mind-numbing to me. And it looks like we've got the trail traced back somewhat, and we might actually have a connection in between who kind of came up with the script for that entire video that ended up coming out looking to overthrow the dang government, in my opinion, right as we're on the brink of war and everything else. So let's go ahead and get into this first story about Caroline Leavitt's family being arrested by ICE. And the first thing to tell you guys, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wood chipper, wood chipper, wood chipper. Yeah, he should have been wood chippered the first time, not the second, not the third, not the fourth or the fifth, but the first time should have been wood chippered. That is just a fact. So here's the deal with their family. They're taking Caroline Leavitt and they're smearing her all over the media. And they're saying that the White House is ticked off and she's refusing to comment on anything. And what it looks like is the person who was arrested was the mother of her brother's child. So that would be her nephew. And this guy was with her all the way back. So her brother was with this gal all the way back in like 2020 or something around there. Like, it's a very long time ago. There's some article that I found on the web about him winning like $1 million in a online gambling thing, getting awarded. I forget what the heck the name of the company is, and I don't really care. But either way, there it references is like that lady and everything else. And so they had that kid back then. He now has a family. He's gone, like, he didn't marry that woman, hasn't been with her forever. He's actually had sole custody of the child, and in no way, shape, or form, in my opinion, is she really any way associated with the White House. The only way that I've seen this lady that got arrested by ICE associated with the White House was because her son was pictured with, Caroline and basically that family minus the mother, because the mother allegedly hasn't had custody of the child since like the child was born. So none of this really matters, in my opinion. You got a mother that hasn't been around, that her brother broke up with 20 years ago, probably. And it just, it like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. The man's like married. He's got somebody else, everything else, but they're using it, trying to smear the White House, being like, look at that. They're deporting their own family members. Yeah, you're probably right. Downtown Shooting 633 says, sorry to bring the mood down so early, but we need prayers for the Minnesota National Guard. We just lost one yesterday. Ah, crap. Dude. That's horrible timing too with what you guys have that's about to come up here that I'm about to go over. That's horrible timing. All right. Yeah, everybody send your prayers out to Down South Shooting, and God, please look over the family members and his brothers and sisters in arms. Amen. That sucks, man. That's never good. All right. Let's bring this up because now it's time. On Friday, Donald Trump said that he would basically be looking over all of the immigration visas that started in like 2021 through 2022. And there's a reason for it. And that's been going all around CNN, and people are getting freaking pissed off about it because they're like, what's wrong with these people? Why aren't they coming back to the States? And I talked to you guys about it yesterday, but I decided to go over and pull up the relevant facts. Even took a video by Wolf Blitzer and put a compilation for you guys so that you guys can read it and we can go over it together.
This morning, a source tells CNN the Trump administration is weighing an unprecedented shift in its immigration approach. An internal memo reveals officials are considering
an unprecedented shift in their immigration approach. He's talking exactly what I'm talking about. Now, what's listed up here on your screen is the press release from Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. This was last Wednesday. It's a total of 2 days before that internal memo came out saying that they wanted to restrict and look over all of those memos. Why? Because these Afghans that got arrested, actually, one of them came through during that time frame, and they all came through on special immigrant visas, which should be pretty dang well vetted, but clearly they weren't.
Interviewing some refugees who have already gone through the vetting process during Joe Biden's presidency. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez is here with us in the Situation Room. Tell us more about this plan, Priscilla.
Well, Wolf, we're talking here about one of the world's most vulnerable populations, and those are refugees.
Most vulnerable populations, the refugees. Trump's going after the most vulnerable population. Well, let's take a look at why he likely ended up doing that. The first co-conspirator in this, Tawhidi, he's a 27-year-old citizen of Afghanistan. You guys can see it highlighted up there on your screen. He entered the United States on September 9th, 2021 on a special immigrant visa, or SIV. The juvenile was not named inside of the criminal complaint filed by the FBI for them launching or planning to launch and about to launch an ISIS terror attack inside of the United States on Election Day. Co-conspirator number one is a juvenile, is a citizen of Afghanistan. He entered the United States on March 27th, 2018 on an SIV. By the way, they're also family. The 17-year-old who's now 18, whose name just got dropped yesterday in the criminal complaint, is the brother of Tawhidi's wife. All right. So they're all family that came over to like do this crap. They were planning on selling their house, giving the money to ISIS, flying the family over to Afghanistan and or Syria to like have freaking like, you know, the ISIS take care of the family, for crying out loud. Like, this is silly the way they try to like guard these people and pretend like they didn't do anything wrong.
Refugees, they are all around the globe, and they go through a rigorous process to even be considered to come to the United States and then to actually get here. And so the administration is now shifting its focus to this specific population. Again, to remind viewers, refugees have to show they were persecuted or faced.
The administration is shifting their focus to this population. Yeah, because it's a threat to the United States of America, and they clearly weren't screened properly when you have two ISIS terrorists get through and come to the United States of America. This, again, is from the criminal complaint. Google records show Tawhidi accessed, viewed, and saved ISIS propaganda. The following thumbnail images all resolved to be more expansive PDFs of ISIS media text. These thumbnails on the first page of the text all derive from a Google Drive associated with Tawhidi's Google account. This dude literally had a Google Drive full of freaking ISIS propaganda. He also accessed security cameras, was looking over inside Washington, D.C., and ultimately ended up purchasing 2 AK-47 and 500 rounds of ammunition for him and his, I don't know, like brother-in-law? I don't know. That's not accurate. Look, either way, to like his like nephew, basically, to freaking go and shoot up polling stations. So it's absolutely appalling that Wolf Blitzer and the media and everybody else wants to spin this as if there's not some sort of like dangerous threat here to these SIV holders or anybody else coming into the United States. And I'm saying this as a man who literally did SIV paperwork for Afghans to come into the United States of America. If they were not properly screened, there is nothing I can do about that, and they need to be properly screened. Fox McCloud says, remember what Matt said last week about subversion. A lot of what's going on doesn't fall from the sky of it. Not all of it are foreign actors. You are correct. You are absolutely correct. But a lot of it has to do with actors here in the United States of America that have been fed propaganda from foreign actors. A lot of you guys came on the feed last night and were like, hey, Anthony Aguilar's over on RT. You don't say. Anthony Aguilar's on Russia State Television. Imagine that. And it just happened to be, I don't know, a week after like Trump announces that, the Muslim Brotherhood might be designated a foreign terror organization sometime here in the near future. Kind of odd, don't you think? I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking questions. Is that a Tucker Carlson line? Kind of weird coincidence there. I'm not saying he's associated with the Muslim Brotherhood or he's getting paid from Russia State Television to come out and scream that the Jews ended up killing Charlie Kirk. But maybe, just maybe. If you guys want to access the criminal complaint, the entire thing is like viewed up here on the screen. It's absolutely disgusting what these guys planned on doing. And again, CNN, they just ignore all of this crap. They pretend like it didn't happen. You can see here, his phone appeared to be recorded July 24th in Oklahoma City. They went through like the entire thing. There's your ISIS stuff. There's all of the crap. They even go into like, the different terror attacks and things like that they were looking into, the violent images, didn't know if 500 rounds of ammo was enough, all sorts of crap. And this isn't the only terror attack, by the way, that got foiled that I'm about to tell you about. There's another one down in Florida that I'm going to be going over here in just a little bit. And that one is coming from a white neo-Nazi looking dude, like actually not looking dude. He's, I'm pretty sure, a white neo-Nazi. And you know my opinions on those guys and where they're likely getting all of their inspiration from. If you guys want the original post that I talked about last year, a little over a year ago, Afghan national arrested for plotting an election day terrorist attack in the name of ISIS. There you go. So, Wolf Blitzer, freaking all you and your special guests and all of the power and money from CNN, I am shocked that you couldn't come up with the actual information to throw it out. And you're absolutely right. It is subversion. It is a huge problem over here in the United States of America. And when I say it's a problem in the United States of America, I mean it is literally a freaking problem. I told you guys, registered sex offender accused of sexually assaulting a student in a Phoenix elementary school. Very, very real. The man ended up walking through the front door. They buzzed him in. He's a former student at the school. He's now, I think, 25 years old. This article says that he was released just a couple of weeks earlier for a very similar charge. So he gets out, and the first thing that he does is end up going to the school. Now, the most shocking thing about this that I found, and the reason I ended up bringing it up, is because of this. And believe me, I really, really, really want to look deeper into this story. Because all the way down here, hold on, let's go all the way down to the bottom. Here you go. It says he was released from prison 2 weeks ago on similar charges and was also involved in the alleged smuggling of people across the border into the United States. Now, I was talking with somebody yesterday and learned of something that is absolutely shocking to me. I know I've mentioned the name The GOAT Initiative a couple times. I highly suggest you guys go look them up over on IG, check out a couple of different videos and stuff like that. But what I ended up hearing was probably one of the most disgusting, shocking things ever. That over along the southern border in California, they have this thing that's called the rape tree. And I'm going to go over the stats here in a little bit, but it's like over 85% of the people that cross our southern border illegally are being smuggled in via the cartels, right? So 85% of the illegals crossing the border are cartels, according to DHS and like a Mexican source. 85% plus. It's insane to me. And they pay upwards of $10,000 in order to make it happen. And then when they end up getting to the United States, well, guess what? They end up slapping them with additional fees, taking their paperwork and all sorts of other stuff. They also do things like this, where they'll take the women, bring them over to the rape tree, hang up different articles of clothing, underwear, bras, etc., and rape them over there by the tree in an effort to push them even further to get more and more money out of them. So yeah, when I see things like this, where we have that he was released from prison 2 weeks ago on similar charges and was involved in the alleged smuggling of people across the border inside of the United States, I tend to believe it. The man raped a 10-year-old boy. He walked down the hall, told the boy he was a doctor, took him into a classroom, and essayed the crap out of him, and the boy eventually got away. Of course he was arrested. Of course he's in prison. Do you think anything's going to be done, or do you think he's going to be back on the street in a week or two? It's freaking appalling, and it's disgusting. And the fact is, when this man got caught with that human trafficking going across the border, alleged human trafficking, etc., and then got busted on similar charges, that man should have never been let out of prison. That man should have been freaking, I don't know his citizenship status. I'm going to keep digging into this. But this dude, if he is here on a visa, if he's here for something like that, because by the way, this is him, Abel Gbla, his middle name as well is very African sounding. But if this man is here on a freaking visa, dude, nope, he needs to go.
Need to open the door.
I actually haven't listened to this yet, but it's like the guy needs to go. He needs to get deported. He needs to get the hell out of this country. And we need to pay attention to this crap. Our kids are literally getting raped by human traffickers. Our American children are getting raped by human traffickers.
With this hour, Fox 10 News alert: a convicted sex offender accused of making his way onto a Valley Elementary School campus and sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl.
The suspect has a lengthy criminal history and is now behind bars. Fox 10's Kenzie Beach joins us live outside Orangewood Elementary School tonight in Phoenix with what we know. Kenzie.
Yeah, Christina, John, this man was a registered and convicted sex offender, now accused of making his way onto this elementary school campus yesterday. Now, Orangewood Elementary School off 19th Avenue in Orangewood in Phoenix was placed on an hour-long lockdown yesterday after a 10-year-old girl was lured into an empty classroom and sexually assaulted. As you can see behind me, there's a fence surrounding this entire campus. The only way in is the main office. It's the question we asked, how this man even got onto the campus in the first place. It's the same question parents were asking as they picked their kids up from school early today when they learned what really happened.
I love this school.
Yeah, that's enough of that. The man allegedly got let in through the front door. Like, allegedly. That's something that I ended up reading. Fox McCloud says, I was engaged in ideological subversion, which is seldom explained to people by your media, because the media is part of that process. Yuri Bezmenov. Yeah, that is a fact. Our media is 1000% part of the process. I don't understand why Wolf Blitzer wouldn't talk about the illegal immigration. And I've got another example of that as well. Yesterday, I ended up bringing to you guys and stating that, you know, we had that riot that took place over in Minneapolis, right? That ended up happening. And people ended up in St. Paul, not Minneapolis, over in St. Paul. You guys might remember this scene over outside the facility. Hold on, I'm waiting to pull it up. And I want to show you something that this guy ended up like screaming, right? First, let's look at the statement by the mayor and what the mayor actually ended up stating. He said, for the second time in many weeks, federal immigration officers created chaos in our streets and left our neighborhoods frightened, confused, and angry. My deepest sadness about today isn't that ICE did what they always do, but that we turned against each other. And while we cannot control their actions, we must not let ICE fracture the trust that we built together. We are conducting a full review of every use of force by our officers today, supported by Police Internal Affairs and our Citizen Police Oversight Commission. Transparency and accountability are the only way to maintain it. But he took it a step further. He took it a huge step further. He said, for the second time in many weeks, federal immigration officers created chaos in our streets. While we cannot control their actions, we must not let ICE fracture the trust that we built together. We are conducting a full review of every use of force. He got interviewed yesterday, and I had the statement up. Let me see if I can actually grab this for you guys, because I think it's important. He got interviewed yesterday, and he was asked specifically about, you know, what ended up happening on the streets. And this is how it started yesterday, right here. All right. It started just like this, with ICE outside the house. Now, from what I've been able to read, the individual that ICE was after had gotten in a car accident, injured a civilian, et cetera, the day prior. And that's kind of how that incident started off. And then what ended up following, you know, moving on from that, ended up being a very violent confrontation, which you'll see right here. I want you guys to watch the rear of this ICE vehicle and people that are throwing stuff. You guys see that, right? And then you heard that statement from the mayor saying that ICE had showed up and caused all the chaos. He didn't bother bringing up the fact that his own civilians like literally ran over, chucked, and freaking broke out rear windows. And this crap continued on for a while. Like you can see right here, this guy chucking, I don't even know what that is. Is it a shoe? If that's a shoe, then yeah, I think that is a shoe. When we end up taking a look at it, reminiscent of George Bush getting the freaking shoe chucked at him over inside of Iraq. That tells you that you likely have a Somali or Muslim immigrant that's over there chucking shoes at them because the bottoms of their feet, which is what happened in like the thing with George Bush famously all the way back in the day when he was speaking over in Iraq and the journalist took off a shoe and chucked it at George Bush. You got to understand that like showing the bottom of your feet is a huge sign of disrespect. To take your shoe and chuck it at somebody is like beyond giving the middle finger to them. And so this guy, if he ended up doing that, I'm just assuming, right? I'm just, drawing conclusions based off information that I know. Just maybe might be one of those people that they're talking about from Somalia that's taking over the entire area. Monsoon Geek says, I live in Arizona. We have way too many problems like this involving kids. Several little girls have been murdered in a group home in Mesa. I actually think I saw something about that. Yeah, it's a huge problem. And Arizona's got huge problems when it comes to illegal immigration. It's got wide open space. It's got all sorts of crap that's going on down there. And the actual state government of Arizona really needs to get its crap together. So that's what happened there. And, we're talking about subversion, the media and stuff like that a lot lately, and what the media ends up reporting. This ended up coming out from Fox 9. They ended up interviewing the mayor, and they asked him specifically, like, if he knew what happened. And I think it starts maybe sometime around here.
And why? I'm not going to try to, explain every single thing, or I'm not going to try to justify every single thing. That's why we have investigative processes. That's why we have body cam footage. That's why we have the use of force policies that we put in place. And frankly, I believe that our police department is good at holding ourselves accountable for actions, making sure that our actions kind of fall within kind of our use of force policies. I'm not suggesting that they don't, but I'm suggesting that what's important to me, what I've said from the beginning, is transparency, and so that we can fully understand what happens and why.
Fully understand and transparency to understand fully what actually happened and why. And what fully happened was your people acted like a bunch of animals. They ended up attacking DHS agents that were over there to arrest an illegal immigrant. They conducted violent acts, and that caused the deployment of tear gas and everything else. And I've got a feeling they were also violating municipal and state statutes as well, not just federal ones, not just assaulting police officers and everything else. And so, yeah, if your police actually ended up like deploying, because I heard that his police force actually ended up deploying pepper spray, great, good. But now they're going to review them and probably fry those officers because they have a policy inside that city, and he's going to bring it up, like he talks about it, where they're not allowed to freaking back up ICE. They're not allowed to back up DHS. They're not allowed to help them out and assist in their investigations or anything like that. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually take those officers that did the right thing and pepper sprayed those civilians there that were being freaking angry and went to freaking town. And they write up reports, figure out some way that they violated policy in some way, and they slap them with policy violations, dock their pay, force them out, all sorts of crap. It's disgusting the way that they end up doing this. And this mayor, who knows dang good and well exactly what happened, sits there and tells the freaking camera, no, we got to look into this. Dude, it's on freaking video. Your people are rioting. And you want to talk about like misinformation, disinformation. So far, we've already talked about it. Caroline Leavitt's family, you end up having like some illegal immigrant, allegedly, that ended up freaking giving birth to her brother's kid. Great. Then we talk about a guy that busts into a school over inside of Arizona and freaking rapes a 10-year-old, then to find out that he's involved in like human smuggling. I tell you about how they actually rape these freaking people, human trafficking, how it's a big deal, how they all 85% of the illegals that enter through the southern border end up coming through that southern border, and they're subject to that crap. And oh, by the way, whatever, you know how I'm talking about, the cartel organization comes out of Venezuela, right? Spread all the way up into Mexico. They are responsible for the vast majority of it. So it's funny to me that people want to sit here and pretend like Venezuela is not an issue, that all of these things aren't an issue while it's taking place on our home soil. And we have people that are just flat out lying about it. Witnessing the moral decay of America. You're right. It's almost like, Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention. I have a special announcement to make. Today is Jacoby Jernigan's birthday. Happy birthday, Jacoby! It's amazing. Congrats, my friend. Congrats. I hope I pronounced your last name right, but congrats. Happy birthday, my friend. Welcome to another round on Earth. Hopefully it gets better for you. That's everything I'm talking about. I just want all this freaking crap to go away. And yes, as we talk about dishonest media, dishonest social media, here we go.
This has got to be one of the most ironic things you'll ever hear. You know Caroline Leavitt, who constantly defends Trump's inhumane ICE actions, right? Well, these are her brothers, and one of them has a kid. And this is the mother of that kid. Her name is Bruna Ferreira.
That's true.
And ICE just arrested her for overstaying a visa from 26 years ago.
Also true.
But Leavitt cares more about pleasing a convicted felon than helping her own family.
Not true. that woman is not part of the family. He happens to be the child's mother. And that child's mother hasn't been involved in that child's life in a very long time. But they're going to take this and they're going to freaking throw it out that way. Low T alert. Absolutely correct. Absolutely freaking shocking. I feel like his entire family is just a front. Now, I want you to remember how many... All right. I want you to remember what I said about the percentage of illegals that end up crossing the border under like careful watch of these Mexican cartels or Venezuelan cartels, these freaking terrorist organizations and what they do to them. And I'm going to walk you back in time a little bit here. This is February of this year. Marines and Army end up deploying down to the border and reinforcing and securing the border. Remember that. They went down there and they ended up securing it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see whether or not all of this became a good thing, right? Because like I said, we might have the most secure border in U.S. history, according to this administration. But in my opinion, it's not very secure. And we have terrorists entering this country and we have all of these other things that are entering the country. Now, we'll do some simple math here in a little bit as we take a look at the border. This post from U.S. Northern Command, a lot of people don't even realize it's still going on, is from November 25th. Those Marines and soldiers are still down at the U.S. border, stringing up freaking wire, reinforcing it, and still doing a dang good job to try to secure our border. So this has been ongoing all year long. I want you to take a look at the hard work these men and women of the United States military have been putting in. It's quite a bit. They're going to freaking town, putting it up there. So the question is, with these Marines and soldiers that have been down there a year, not to mention the Texas National Guard, the National Guard that got poured in from Oklahoma and freaking Arkansas and a couple other states. I think Florida even sent some down in there as well. But with all of that going on, what are the fruits of their labor? Has anything good actually ended up coming out of it? Because like I said, you end up having 80 to 85% or whatever that end up coming across the border. Just today, CBP ended up announcing that they, I'll just put it up on the screen. Riding around with coke in your seat is the quickest way to jail. During a traffic stop, U.S. Border Patrol agents arrested a Mexican citizen after uncovering 43.32 pounds of cocaine in the back of his car. So a Mexican citizen with over 43 pounds of cocaine shoved in a duffel bag in the back of his truck, sitting down there. So while I'm about to go over the numbers and everything with you, now that is a very serious bust. That is a buttload of freaking nose candy that they ended up getting, right? Take a look at that. That's a buttload of nose candy that they ended up getting off the street. But when you have a Mexican national cruising around in a freaking truck with 43 pounds of cocaine, the question ends up being, how secure is our border? That's my question. That should be your question. That should be something that everybody really wants to know. And while I say that it's Tren de Aragua, I absolutely mean it's Tren de Aragua. This article ended up coming out on November 25th. Venezuelan prison gang, principal facilitator of illegal migration from Central and South America to Juarez, according to the police chief. Fox McCloud says, Joseph Goebbels, quote, if I tell you a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. That is correct. I love that quote. If you repeat a lie long enough, people end up believing it. You indoctrinate them with enough information, you throw enough crap out there, they're going to start believing it. Russia was very good about that, and they continue to be very good about it to this day. And so they're constantly trying to drive a wedge in the United States, like on a daily basis. So here you have Tren de Aragua. I can't even pronounce the freaking name right, where they're flat out saying that they are vastly responsible for smuggling all of those people up. All right. Gordon Beaton says, why do these libs always sound the same? Feminine voice betas on TikTok. Dude, I don't know. I also don't know why they insist on telling half truths as if we're not going to uncover it. Like, what's wrong with just telling the truth? Like, they'll take and they'll omit facts in order to put a spin on it. And that's part of the disinformation campaign and misinformation campaign that's going on here in the United States. And it's absolutely disgusting to me. Like, I can sit here and I can state that they're calling it the most secure border in U.S. history. But then I'm about to take and show you how secure a border really is, because there's still cocaine getting down there. I'm telling you about the dang rape tree. I'm showing you that to this day, after an entire year of operations by our active duty military, they're still stringing wire up along the border. It ain't secure. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. A lot. And I want you to think about the percentage of people that, I'm about to go over with how many end up getting there. CBP ended up, publishing their fiscal year 25 results for Border Patrol encounters. And the results are absolutely freaking staggering. The effects that they've had on the border. Now, I'm going to also point something else out. We're just going to skip all the garbage and we're going to go all the way down here to this chart. This shows you nationwide encounters by month. And I want you to notice the extreme decline from December to January of 2025. So here's your fiscal year, all right? This is October of 24, where you had 142,742 nationwide encounters. And you see that number drop starting in January. 81,479 nationwide encounters, splits in half. February, splits in half again. 28,613 encounters at the border. Now, we have our National Guardsmen, or I'm sorry, not our National Guard, our active duty troops that are all down there doing that. And so we take a look at the data. And I say, all right, well, we have all of these active duty troops that are down there by the border. Obviously, what they're doing is helping, right? But how much is it helping? How much is that wall and everything else helping? Because as I go across the year, 29,000, 29,000, 29,000, 25,000, 24,000, 26,000, 26,000. Why do you have higher numbers in freaking April going into May? Because it's freaking hot down there and people are going to end up dying as they end up walking across the border. But I want you to go back and I want you to look at this policy. All right, this is from June of 2023, 211,000, July, 245,000, August, 305,000, and it tops out for 23 at 341,000. And then you can carry it in to fiscal year 24, where it freaking peaked at almost 371,000 encounters in a single month. That is absolutely disgusting. 371 encounters, 371,000 encounters. Now, I want you to think about this. The amount of people that are being smuggled. We just heard somebody talk about like girls getting freaking killed inside of a house. I told you about people being raped and all of that other crap. And we still have all this cocaine and everything that's going on down at the border. If people are supporting this, they really don't give crap about rape. They really don't care about human rights. They really don't care about anything because it's created a massive black market where people are just getting freaking murdered, killed, held hostage, and then put into forced labor over here in the United States in order to pay it back. Over $10,000 per person getting smuggled. Do the freaking math. 371,000 in 1 month. Multiply by 10K, divided by 80%. Well, excuse me, multiply by 80%. That is a buttload of money on a monthly basis that was going to these people just for going to the gangs. That's then going to feed the cartels. That's then going to cause terror in the United States, which is then going to kill U.S. citizens. It's all funneling into the same freaking channel. So illegal immigration isn't about immigrant rights. It's about human rights. And those human rights are being violated by these gang members. And if for some reason we were able to figure out a decent way to get rid of them, well, we'd be okay. So the chief takeaway that I want you guys to get from this is that reinforcing the border didn't really do crap. If them down there reinforcing the border, we would have actually seen things start trickling down. We would have seen that number trickling down, right? By stringing up concertina wire, putting up more wall, like all of that other crap, that number would be on a constant decline. And what we can see very clearly, all right, is we see a constant, like pretty much steady rate across the board since Trump ends up getting into office, where you get 28,000 that month and then it drops somewhere between 24 to 26,000 on average, 25,000 all throughout the year. And they've been working on that border, the active duty troops. So it's not the reinforcing of the border that's actually doing any good. It's the enforcing of the law and taking care of that. And that has dropped, all right, all of this down significantly. If we go and we look at the year-end total for 2025, all right, and remember that part of fiscal year 2025, oh dear God, part of fiscal year 2025 involved, what's his dang name? Biden. And you look at that number, 691,906 encounters. October, November, December, in January, you had, I mean, you could average that out to well over 100,000 a month. You can pretty much say that in those the first 4 months of the fiscal year, on average, you had more people crossing the border in 4 months than we had all year. So it's literally just enforcing the standard. Now, that is kind of what it is. And in my opinion, they might be wasting a little bit of money. But Chief Michael Banks has came out and he said it's time to go home for the holidays and take care of the opportunities the government has given you today. Self-deport by using the CBP Home app so you can't apply for legal status later. For now, take the free flight home and a $100 exit bonus. It's a no-brainer. And he ends up giving a video.
We've seen negative net migration, but we're also seeing those that were starting their journey to come this way, reverse migration. People are starting to leave. You know, you've seen the numbers touted about the number of deportations. One of the things we're most proud of is the number of people that are self-deporting. They're saying, hey, we're going to take advantage of the opportunity the U.S. government is giving us and allow us to leave on our own so that we can attempt to apply for some type of status in the future. And so that's my message to anyone in this country illegally. Take advantage of the opportunities that we, the United States government, are giving you to leave now, because if you wait until you're apprehended and deported, you won't be allowed to return.
Now, I'm very curious because he actually said you're seeing like an opposite effect. So I'm wondering if more people are leaving the country than crossing the border illegally at this point. I am very curious because, again, estimated over 70 million illegals here in the United States of America. And if they get caught by CBP or ICE DHS agents, they're not going to be allowed to come back. So today I'm going to dig into the stats and see if I can't figure out how many people have self-deported and taken that $1,000, saved the American taxpayers a buttload of money for these operations to make sure they get out. And I'd be very curious to see if we now have like negative illegals that are coming into the country. That would be my huge freaking question because I would love to know that. And the smuggling and stuff like that just needs to stop. At the end of the day, the smuggling needs to stop. I told you guys about Fort Bragg and that there's signs up outside of it. I wasn't kidding.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy. Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration...
You guys remember this video, right? Pretty sure we ended up finding the source, and it's all thanks to this stupid sign that ended up getting put up outside of Fort Bragg. Guess what? Looks like George Soros might be involved. Looks like Act Blue might be involved. Looks like there's other people that actually might be involved in this, and it's not a joke. That sign says, did you go airborne just to pull security for ICE? Go to notwhatisignedupfor.org. Something very interesting ends up happening when you go over to notwhatisignedupfor.org. When we go over and we take a look at it, it goes down and it tells you, you saw the billboard, you still have questions, you're not alone. Use Proton Mail, do not use a military computer, use a Signal app for encrypted text or calls, use a VPN like NordVPN, and then they give a bunch of references to different organizations that will help them out if they feel like going against an order that they feel is illegal. And then the interesting part is all the way down here at the bottom. It says Win Without War. And it's a clickable link, believe it or not. And you go over to Win Without War and it takes you here to their main page. You can go over to their About section. Oh, by the way, total cost of the war on terror, $10 billion. And they've got like their debt clock running on that thing. They've got all sorts of propaganda and stuff like that. Obviously, tell the 6 Democratic Trump threatened, we have your back. Obviously, that's going to be the one that they end up putting up. This whole thing is a freaking push in order to screw like military members over in order to get them out. And this company, Take Action, Win Without War, it's a 501c4. They're also partnered up with a 501c3, Win Without War Education, digging into their tax returns and everything right now. But before I even got deeper into it, somebody else already did the work. So who is behind this crap? Because this video, as you guys are about to see on the next website I bring you to, looks pretty shocking to something that I'm like this video in the propaganda that got put out just days before this. Pretty freaking shocking.
Is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Did they just say that? Did they just say, yeah, this administration is pitting our uniformed military
Administration is pitting our uniformed military
and
intelligence community professionals
against
American citizens. Very, very interesting that they would bring that up. So, ended up seeing this getting put out by Eric Doherty. He is the chief content officer at Florida Voice News. He said, it has been revealed that a nonprofit linked to George Soros is fomenting sedition within the military around the same time a script went out of the Democratic members of Congress urging rebellion without the rank against President Trump. There's also links to Antifa. On November 11th, just days before the video, the National Lawyers Guild published a page urging service members to refuse illegal orders. The same talking point in the video. Win Without War has put up a billboard in North Carolina urging chaos and dissent within the ranks, a group linked to a 501c4 backed by Soros Open Society. The group was previously named New Security Action. It's very true. Went over and looked at some of their filings. I also have problems finding Win Without War's 501c4 EIN. I can find New Security Action, but not Win Without War's. As per Data Republican, Win Without War is partnered with the National Lawyers Guild. Imagine that. The National Lawyers Guild is a supporter of Antifa, and to wrap it all together, Senator Gallego from Arizona said on national TV a script was sent to him. He ended up not participating, but admitted it was coordinated from an external party. Very, very interesting. So let's go take a look at that freaking website that he's talking about that ended up getting published just a couple days before the script ends up getting sent out, and they end up publishing that stupid video. Frequently asked questions on refusing illegal orders, GI rights and counseling memos, resources, all of that crap. Here they have a QR code that you can go in and scan and do all of that crap. Do I have the right to refuse illegal orders? Yes, all members of the military have the right, and in some cases have the duty to refuse illegal orders. Where this starts to get freaking scary is point number 2 that they end up putting up on the screen. So I'm going to zoom in and try to blow this sucker up for you. What are some scenarios in which I might be given illegal orders? None of the scenarios below would necessarily involve illegal orders, but these are all actions that the commander-in-chief has discussed publicly as possibilities, which might involve the U.S. military, and that might lead to illegal orders. We don't know if any of those things will happen, but you may want to think about what you would do if you were given orders to take part in any of these military actions, or to take specific actions once deployed, since it may not be the deployment itself that's illegal. In the U.S. military, use of military forces to carry out deportations. First thing that they have listed. Tom Bone says, it makes me wonder if this civil unrest is organized in a way to force Trump's hand into using the National Guard to give credit to their narrative. Yeah, welcome to the information campaign and operations, Tom. You're absolutely correct. That's what they're doing. They're forcing Trump's hand in these situations. Phantom Shaman says more than 2 million illegal aliens have left the U.S., including 1.6 million who have voluntarily self-deported and over 527,000 deportations. So yeah, the number of CBP encounters is actually less than the number of self-deportations. That's amazing. That's good to hear, man. It's like double. It's actually over. It's like 2.25. It's freaking great. It's amazing. So yeah, removals or detention of immigrants. Removals to countries where those removed are likely to be tortured could violate the Convention Against Torture, to which the U.S. is party. Why did they put that on there? Because of that guy that they tried to frame as a family guy that ended up getting freaking deported. That's why they put that on there. Use of military forces against civilian protesters. The Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the use of federal troops for domestic law enforcement, with certain exceptions, primarily in the event of an insurrection. Thus, one has an arguable duty to refuse to obey an order to assist law enforcement personnel unless there's an insurrection. Well, guess what? It's Donald Trump's decision to make that call. And it's Donald Trump's decision to federalize the National Guard after declaring it and to enforce the laws. And it's not just an insurrection. There's several other reasons why he can do it. Outside of the U.S., attacks on vessels in international or foreign waters, attacks on surviving crew or passengers of vessels sunk at seas, invasion of or an attack on Venezuelan territory. This ought to bother the crap out of every single one of you. Attack, invasion, or attempt to seize control of the Panama Canal by force. The hell? Yeah, we ended up dealing with the Panama Canal at the very beginning of this presidency. Preemptive use of military force against China, Iran, or other countries. Notice how they list Iran. Now, do you think that even the pilots that drop the 30,000-pound freaking bombs, plural, I think it was 12 total, over on the Iranian nuclear facilities or in uranium enrichment sites, do you think that they had access to all of the intelligence, how it was collected, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? No. For them to actually put things like this on there, while we have sitting members of freaking Congress that have sat there and called those strikes illegal or unconstitutional, thereby illegal, is absolutely an attempt to subvert. It's an attempt to undermine the commander-in-chief's authority. And if these people pushed the same narrative over to those members of freaking Congress that we saw, well, then we have a very serious problem. And all of the people that are out there complaining, trying to say that Trump is abusing his power, SecDef shouldn't have possibly, Secretary of War, shouldn't have possibly enlisted the help of the DOD. The FBI shouldn't be investigating it. Garbage. There is more than enough cause to start investigating this and to determine where the money came from, who ended up sending it, and everything else. And this is just what the autistic army on the internet was capable of finding. Fox McCloud says to liberals who thinks that this is a good idea, what you are going to do, self-quit so the only people in charge would be the loyalists? Exactly. No, what they're hoping to do is find commanders. See, you're just thinking that what you are thinking is that, low-level soldiers and stuff like that. You forget that there's like flag officers, field grade officers, commissioned officers in charge of troops that actually believe this nonsense. And that is part of the reason for the massive mis and disinformation campaign that's being blasted out. I want you to think about this. You have a company commander that you have been training beside for the last 2 years. And that company commander refuses to follow orders and take his troops over to, Chicago. National Guard company commander refuses to take his or her troops over into Chicago to suppress the insurrection, uprising, violence that the local law enforcement is refusing to deal with. That company commander then tells their troops, I'm not doing this and neither should you. This is an illegal order. That is a much bigger statement. Now picture they're a battalion commander, picture they're a freaking brigade commander or a division commander that ends up making that call. It ends up becoming a much bigger issue, not because of hundreds of troops, but because of one. It becomes an issue, and they actually do exist. You got to understand that under the last decade plus, we've had the trans rights issues and all of that stuff taking place over inside of our military. And there is now officers. I saw a major that's actually losing his/her crap because they're getting kicked out because they've been diagnosed or said to have gender dysphoria, I think, if I remember correctly, and that they are getting the boot and they're not cooperating. They're not doing anything. And that commander has had a woke military underneath them. The amount of time that I spent on TikTok prior to this YouTube channel and talking to people over inside of the military and being told that I'm an old head. I've got no reason talking about it. Shut up, Unc. Right? This isn't your military anymore. Blah, 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 blah. When I talk about issues and problems like this, that's the woke military that has started. And it is ingrained and it's been taking place for about a decade now, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually more than that if you take some of Obama's liberal policies in place, you start actually thinking about what's been done in the military. So when we have congressmen, senators that are sitting there and stating, don't follow illegal orders, it's kind of a problem. When they are saying that, the military and, CIA and our intelligence community is being used against American citizens, it's a problem. And if those people receive their script from these people, you can pretty much confirm that you've got that insurrection taking place right now. I don't know if you saw the billboard up on the screen just a little bit ago, but that absolutely is encouraging service members to do this. It's all linked. Fox McCloud it's disgusting, man. What do they think? That's what they think. That's personally what I think they think. I think they think that they can just convince a couple senior ranking officers or senior ranking NCOs, God forbid it's an NCO, senior ranking NCOs to actually speak about that, because NCOs end up advising commanders. And if you got some weird liberal NCO commander combo and both your NCO corps and the officer corps ends up breaking down and stands against deploying National Guard troops to Chicago or protecting American interests abroad because they read some stupid website that didn't give them full information, and they've been seeing propaganda, and they're seeing lawmakers, federal lawmakers, come out with this, it's a freaking problem. And so people that are like complaining that Hegseth is investigating Kelly using the DOD, it absolutely should happen. Excuse me, the DOW, Department of War, it absolutely should happen. FBI looking into everybody else, yes, absolutely should happen. Why? Because it certainly seems like there's a dang insurrection. Torture, mistreatment of civilians, prisoners of war, or other detainees. International law prohibits the use of military force except in retaliation for a military strike or in the face of an imminent military strike. The International Court of Justice has also held that the use of nuclear weapons is a violation of international law, although that ruling is not necessarily binding in courts. Other treaties govern torture, treatment of detainees, stopping and boarding of vessels in international waters. Now, I want you to think about that one. Talking about nuclear weapons. And a lot of people don't realize the issues that we actually have ongoing with Russia. We have very big issues with Russia. Sabotage taking place over inside of NATO countries. Numerous Russian spies been caught. All of this crap happening to our NATO partners. Trump ended up moving 2 nuclear submarines off the coast of Russia days before Putin came to Alaska in order to attempt to discuss the peace deal that's still ongoing, likely to fail. I know Zelensky agreed to an 18-point plan down from the 28 or whatever the hell it was. It doesn't matter. It's probably going to fail because all the points that they removed are the talking points that Russia wants. And this is going to reach a boiling point eventually. Russia was over fighting side by side with Hezbollah. They were balls deep inside of Syria. When we pulled out of Africa, they were right behind us. And they're balls deep with Iran at the exact same time. So if you don't think that there's a possibility that some of our submariners might have to launch nuclear weapons on the order of the president and save American lives, you're dead wrong. This just became extremely serious when you start bringing up nuclear warfare and you start encouraging people to think twice before launching a nuclear weapon. Do you know who gives the orders to launch those nuclear weapons? You know where they come from? Directly from the top. Directly from the President of the United States. If he gives the order. And how much intelligence do you think those guys on the subs that are floating like sunk underneath the sea are going to get? This is beyond dangerous. This is beyond irresponsible. This is 1,000% putting American lives in danger. And those senators, congressmen, the frickin' woman who came from the CIA, who, by the way, knows that you find a little portion, you exploit it, and you push, is exactly what she did using these immigration lies and everything else. It's very, very disturbing to me. Why? Why would that sign exist outside of Bragg unless that's what they wanted them to do? Then we start getting up and we start looking into this.
Urgent news. Donald Trump is getting ready to strike targets inside Venezuela, according to the Wall Street Journal and the Miami Herald. The United States Congress must speak up and stop this. No president, according to the Constitution, has the authority to strike another country without Congress's approval. And the American people have voted against regime change and endless wars. It is time for Congress to get back into session today and stop us from getting mired in yet another.
What do you think? Do you think that maybe there is a push to get our military to break away to allow that to happen? Yeah, the Wall Street Journal. You know, when I was sitting down to do an interview yesterday, oh man, why am I brain farting this one? Worldview? Yeah, when I was sitting down to do my interview yesterday with them, and we're prepping for it, and we were getting ready to go in, somebody had brought up that, you know, MSM was reporting that Kash Patel was fired by Donald Trump. I actually brought that up. And he was like, whoa. And I'm like, who's the source on that? Right? Like, let's take a look at that and let's see what ends up happening. And they ended up dropping it anyways. You know, obviously we don't talk about it. I'm like, I wouldn't trust that to save my life, to be honest with you. I absolutely wouldn't do it. Yeah, Worldview Tube, excuse me, the ones that ended up coming out with it. And Caroline Leavitt actually came out and posted about it like immediately following. story is completely made up. In fact, when this fake news published, I was in the Oval Office where President Trump was meeting with his law enforcement team, including FBI Director Kash Patel. I read the headline to the president and he laughed. He said, "What? That's totally false. Come on, Kash, let's take a picture and show them you're doing a great job. Don't believe the fake news." These things are happening at an alarming rate over inside of the United States of America. And part of me thinks that some of these guys might actually be getting intel, if you will, or getting leaks that are coming out. But I don't think that they are truly vetting that and following up on it. They're just quick to publish and quick to push things out. And regardless of what the White House says, there's people that are running around today thinking that that's actually going on because they ended up publishing fake stories. Now think about how many freaking times that has taken place over the course of this last year with fake news stories. There is, ladies and gentlemen, in Matt's opinion, an insurrection taking place inside the United States of America. We do have a massive danger to U.S. civilians, now escalated all the way up to potential for like a nuclear war. It's insane to me that there's people encouraging our military and these freaking sub-commanders who are like hand-picked, great Americans, awesome human beings, to make sure that they follow that stuff to the T, to make sure that they know the law. They get training unlike any other. They are putting American lives at risk. And that is why the FBI, that is why the Department of War are investigating and looking into bringing up charges on these people, because there's absolute reasonable suspicion at a very minimum to look into this case, to launch an investigation to determine whether or not there is a freaking insurrection, encouraging our military members outside of Fort Bragg to call in, to defy illegal, what they describe as illegal orders. And they're being very, very unclear about it. Man, it's a freaking problem. It is a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I am out of here.
Speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.